So moving on to part two, then now we have decided to move cheek to cheek.
Okay.
We ended the last version by discussing actually. Okay, so basically, what's going to happen with us as human beings? One job is replaced for the other. Less and less people get a real employment. They become self-employed individuals. The people who are flexible enough, they will be able to survive in the system. But as we grow older, we lose flexibility, and it's not everybody is equipped with the same talent to actually be flexible. So it's a major concern. Looking at the future, what will this do for our society?
Maybe accountant we will going to have those we don't need. And
No,
lawyer,
absolutely.
Lawyer is the same.
So
Doctor is the same.
so
Dentist is the same.
exactly.
Yeah.
But the thing is, actually, and I will come to speak about that, but because those people, the job might change a lot, but there is something that those people have, and that is a education and a mindset, and they have more ways to actually find activities that are very close to what they're doing that could still justify their profession. There are people who, for example, clean toilets, they don't have much ability to actually find new ways, new activities to actually justify their jobs. If there is a machine that can take care of the cleaning, then that's just it. End of job. You can be as creative as you want, but there are not a lot of jobs left. But for example, lawyers, doctors, like I said before, okay, basically the act of actually interpreting an MRI scan that could very well be automated, but talking, dealing with patients, telling them what to do, what to take, etc. That's still human work. People still need to be able to interpret what the machine has interpreted from the MRI, and so there are still. I mean, those jobs might largely disappear, but new jobs might occur, and especially the more talented, more flexible people, the people who have a better educational background, they might actually be able to find new ways to actually make a living after all. But yeah, sure, accountants. Why do we need accountants?
We don't need.
No.
I think we need to study Greece, civilian, and Roman civilian activity.
The ancient.
Ancient,
Right.
what they did. What this is okay. My opinion is what's the definition of happiness?
Mm.
Okay, what is the definition of people's happiness?
Mm.
This is very important
Meaning.
concern.
No.
So now is next 10, 20 years, and human beings need to reconsider what is happiness. Okay, your work is objective of your happiness,
Right.
not anymore. How is the happiness of you're going to take care of your family?
Well, not anymore.
Is extreme. What is your extreme your happiness? What is it? What do you want? Okay,
Right.
do you want money? For what? Right? You want to buy car, but majority people you don't need to own your car.
Did we talk about this last week? Like when we were comparing Dutch workers with Japanese workers?
No.
Oh, okay. So maybe it was.
Oh,
with
you
somebody-
just a Dutch worker. You retired. You don't do nothing at all. But
Right.
you're satisfied for just idling day every day. But it's ridiculous. What's the objective for your life?
No,
No
well,
work.
basically what happens is that in Japan, after you are being basically forced out of the system because you arrived there through time, so you will disappear there through time as well. It doesn't mean that you're suitable or not suitable. You're pushed out of the system. Then you're going to look for new ways for employment for your second career. One of the reasons is maybe money, because but a lot of people they will have had plenty of opportunity to actually build up enough reserves to actually retire. they don't want to go home. Why? Because in Japanese society, it's very
You're talking
normal.
about Japanese?
Yes.
Oh.
It's very normal that work takes precedence over everything. So work is very important. Work it takes a very central role in your life. That means that work comes first. Your family comes second. If you need to work late, then you need to work late. It's work, therefore you do it. It doesn't work like that in the Netherlands.
How's that?
It's not like that. Family first. Family first. I work to live, not live to work. That's a comment. That means that actually throughout your working life, there is constantly attention for your family. There is constant maintenance, basically.
Are you doing the family first?
Right.
Really?
Right.
I don't believe you.
Man, eh? I mean, not everybody is so.
I wonder
He's just only speaking.
how frequent the company asked the employee to move to the new job location or branch without the families.
Never happens.
Never happens.
Never happens.
That is, I think, one of the root cause.
Thinking, eh?
Yeah.
But actually, is the company asking the people to go? Because I also very often I get the impression that in Japan, after the kids, especially once they go to school, etc., they don't want to take the kids out of school, and they even don't want to go together with Otosan.
Depending
Or
on the
is that-
situation, and most of the case, there is right for the employees whether he or she is going to move alone or with families. But there are a variety of the reasons. Yeah, one of the reasons is the age of the children. That means the easiness to change the schools between the two regions. Or, for example, if the young couple have maybe 1 year boy and 2 or 3 years girls, I think it is very tough work to find some not kindergarten but some kind of institute where they can ask to take care while
You should ask Takahashi. It's a wife is separate.
yeah. So in such a case, in my case,
Right.
I chose I myself moved from Nagasaki to Yokohama alone, leaving my family in Nagasaki because my kids were small. And even if the much elder the children, like junior high school and senior high school, still there are a variety of the difficulties to move with the families. So because maybe one of the reasons is the number of the candidate senior high school or university. The situation is slightly different for the new university, but talking about the junior high school and the senior high school, there are a variety of the type of the schools, a public school and a private school,
Right.
and in like a local area, or local prefecture, there are of course number of the public and the private schools are very limited, but it is I think it's slightly easier to choose. But on the other hand, if the couple tried to move to Tokyo, Osaka, competition is very, very severe. Some people can adapt, but some people cannot.
So as a kid, I moved 10 times, I think.
In Netherlands.
In the Netherlands, between cities and from one school to the other, to the other, to the other, to the other. I mean, always like my father always changed jobs. Like he changed very frequently, like more often than I changed my own.
Or there may be another issue. That would be maybe the slow process of paperwork of local office, or maybe another issue is. Like if you have your own house, that is also another issue. Maybe also the difference between the way of thinking about having their own house. We Japanese, most of the case, think the house is one of the biggest, you can say, what do you call it? Capital?
Assets?
Asset, yes. And the car is also the same.
Right.
And once they buy the house, they seldom move to the other place.
Right.
Or even they try to keep that house, even if the family as a whole move to the other place by borrowing the house to the other person. So that kind of the way of thinking is also the difference of the way of thinking between the Japanese people and the Netherlands people.
Right.
Is also one of the reason of the.
Well, I must say that I don't think our family was very typical. I mean, not so many people move so often as we did. But I mean, basically, there is a duty to go to school. So wherever we would move, some school needs to accept us because I need to go to school. Otherwise, it's illegal to not send your kids to school. So it's just a matter of, okay, so go to whatever school accepts you.
Maybe what do you think about the selecting the new school for your kids when you move to the new place?
my parents never actually asked us. They just go here. Oh.
So that means the quality of education is almost same in a higher level.
Well, I think my primary school the quality was very low, but I mean we really lived in the countryside at that time, and there was not much choice. I mean, basically this was just Muda, and there were only 2 schools, so you go to school A or school B. It doesn't really make any difference.
Okay.
But anyway, I mean.
So you mean still every children have enough opportunity to go the way which they chose.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that is also the big difference between the Japan and Netherlands. Selecting the other school carefully is one of the key point for the future. That is a kind of.
But will that remain? Will that remain? I wonder. Will that school system? That school system is important because of your job, and basically that investment is justified because your job will be with that company for the rest of your life. That's going to change. That's going to change. So I wonder whether that same emphasis will remain. But I think in general, the way that we were talking about retirement, right? So retirement. Uno-san was very surprised about the fact that basically when we retire, we don't want to work. Are you kidding me? No. What happens is that when I look to parents my uncles and aunts and to the parents of my friends, once they retire, they go traveling together. Husband and wife, they go around the world. They spend a month here, a month there, and they just enjoy their lives, and that's it. In Japan, they often get divorced. But why is that? Because basically you completely grow apart while you're working because your primary focus is work. And I think like in the Netherlands, we try to keep the family first. And
I've been thinking about that. Why such kind of situation happened in Japan? That maybe one of the I think big reason is the efficiency.
Efficiency.
Of the company.
Okay. Can you explain?
After the World War II, we lost everything, but luckily we recovered our economics by the hard working of every Japanese. At that moment, what do I say? The more you work, then you more get more money.
Right.
And the getting a higher salary was the only one, like I say, virtue for our life. Getting a high salary and having a nice house and having a nice cars or whatever. But during that kind of growth of economy, in the drastic growth of economy, at the same time we lost the tie of the families. Because to get or to earn more revenue, company tried to get, so the company had to move their employees all over the Japan or maybe all over the world. So as a result of that, we experienced tremendous numbers of mobilities. We are forced to. So as a result of that, many of the families have to live separately. So if that kind of situation lasts long, even the relationship between husband and wife can be easily lost. And that kind of phenomena is almost now common to every the Japanese. It's a common sense, and even if you are ordered to move alone to somewhere, but it is natural, and there's no way to escape from that. As far as that man or woman try to keep working for that company, so that so another issue may be lifelong employment also help that kind of phenomena. Not so many Japanese employees have an opportunity to change their jobs easily.
Right.
And frequent job change
Not
treated as not good in, as careers.
Right. Right.
So there are a variety of reasons, but I think one of the big drive was the company's attitude to get more revenues based on the efficient operation of the companies. And so as a result of that, almost all the employees should have work for the company as the, like I say, haguruma.
Yeah.
Gears.
Gears.
Yeah. So during that period, gradually the ties of families are lost. That is my idea.
So it's but actually everything starts with people buying a house and a car and get settled, then they get kind of it's kind of a scheme, don't you think? If you take two steps back and you think, wow, basically we employ people, we encourage them to start a family, we encourage them to buy a house, and then basically they are ours.
Okay, yes, I agree, but yes, company forced us to buy a new house.
Yeah, so I'm not only saying that this happens in Japan, but it's
the happy of the life is having a house or cars or objects.
Right.
But the company itself did not spread such kind of virtue. But maybe there is some other drives. Yeah, one of the drive was the emptiness after the barbecue. Because
right, but that was a basic human needs, right? So basic human needs are shelter but it's not a basic human need to have a Mercedes in your driveway or to have a huge house and a house that will give you.
You are true. Yeah. Not everybody would like to have the highest level of the house, highest level of car. The affordable house and affordable car is enough for almost all the normal ordinary people. But there was such kind of phenomena that Ueno Station. Every the beginning of the fiscal year, April, so many new young the people who just graduated the senior high school moved from Tohoku area to the Tokyo to get the job here. So because at that moment I think there are two reasons. One, they could not afford their life by working at their local area. So that so those young people could not but move to the Tokyo to get the job. And another reason, maybe there are so many job opportunities here. That means that there are so many companies here.
Right.
That means that there are so many companies who would like to have or increase their revenue here. So there are, because of those two reasons, there were huge mobilities of the systematic mobilities was created from a local city to the Tokyo, or maybe the Osaka, or maybe Nagoya. So as a result of that, there are so many people in Tokyo, while the population of the local city is still decreasing, and eventually the total population is now decreasing. So anyway, such kind of phenomena tells us that everybody of this land is working for the efficiency of the company.
But it's a bit sad that at the end of your career you're deemed to actually looking for another job because you don't have a place to go home to.
So after the old man retired, so soon after they realized that how to live with families in daily life.
Exactly.
To live with
you don't get
wife.
the same respect as you got when you were still working, when you just tell somebody to do this and that and the other. You can't tell that to your wife. And your wife also is convinced you.
I don't know what are they going to do after retirement in Japan. I don't know. What are they doing?
Writing books.
No, in my case is very
different. Yeah.
What they are going to do? Usually, actually, they don't do anything. Or like, no, I don't think that they don't do anything at all.
Well, I see a lot of people who are employed one way or the other. Like, for example, construction side, there are a lot of people like regulating traffic, trucks going in and out, and
yes, but
these kinds of
this is
jobs.
Low grade workers.
So
But
maybe that's better than being at home, or it could also be that there's a financial necessity because they had something happened to them and they lost their money. Possible.
You know, for the Industry 2.0, the automation drove out the blue collar. And maybe Industry 4.0, AI is one of the big drive, and AI will drive out
the white collar. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but not all
and actually they are most prone to automation because they're so incredibly inefficient. There's so much inefficiency, so that's going to happen. That's going to happen.
Or even the white collar who themselves is working efficiently along with
inefficient colleagues
rules will be driven out by the AI because such kind of a routine work,
Right.
like evaluating employees.
Managers out.
Right, that's right.
Out. Oh.
Or still there may be the opportunity for the people who is working just in front at the front end of the industry activities, like making something,
Right.
or yeah. Uh, every employee who is working based on their variety of the knowledge or technique or
Highly skilled workers,
Highly
but
skilled,
people who have the capacity to take one step back, look at their job, and say, okay, with this new technology, we can actually implement it in a way to become more effective or whatever. So people who, the people who, for example, have a very high skilled craftsmen who have the capacity to use the design technique to emulate their craft in a more automated way, they will be able to find, but that's based on their experience as craft people. They know what it requires, but they realize that their fingers are no longer making the money. It's their brain that needs to take over and use the technology to actually get the same result, or maybe get better results than he would ever get with only using his fingers. Those people will be able to survive. So the people who can make the step from where they are now to actually integrating technology with their skills that they're using right now, those are the people who will be able to maintain their jobs.
Yeah.
So you guys have the heritage of Greece, right?
Man.
No work.
Right. Yeah, no work. Like they used to have slaves. That's also kind of automation. Yeah. So they used. What did they do? They introduced like games, and they engaged in philosophy and debate.
Oh, my wife is a whole day
Philosophy.
playing game, playing game, whole day.
Oh my God! I would be so depressed after playing games.
She claimed half day headache, half day playing games. Is this happy?
So when I was a university student, that was the moment when we started to have our own computer in my house or room. But my major was information technology. But even during the student of my faculty, still very few students had our own computer.
Right.
And I bought mine. And soon after, I started the game.
Right. I didn't have one.
Oh, really?
I had to go to the library to use a computer.
And but at that moment, if we tried to play the game, first we have to type in the program code by ourselves.
Right.
So that was a very good exercise for me to type quickly. But anyway, so soon after the game software was started to sell.
Sega.
So. But as you said, every time I completed the role-playing game all through the night, I just felt like just a waste of time.
Right.
So that eventually that was a very, very good experience for me. So soon after I stopped playing the game, because playing a game is just a waste of time.
It's really
Reading a book is better than that.
Yeah.
Or communicating with the people.
Right. But how can we? I mean, why do people play games? Because everybody must. Yeah. Okay.
That is the next topic.
Why do people play games? No, actually. So looking at employment. I mean, changes in employment. This looks at the percentage of workers employed in different kinds of industries over the past 165 years.
What is the blue one? Light blue one.
The light blue one is agriculture.
Dark blue one.
So the dark blue one is manufacturing. So we see that manufacturing is increasing, but then it's decreasing. So we see that there is the point of this picture is actually to show that there is massive changes in employment over time. It's natural what's happening. So we see that as a whole, trade, wholesale actually has increased dramatically over time. Education has increased, healthcare has increased, business and repair services, financial services, government services. Those are the sectors that actually employ more and more people these days. But manufacturing, agriculture, mining are obviously now in much less demand. So change is normal. Change is something that happened to us, that happened everywhere in the world, and it's.
This is very interesting. Next 20 years, what's happened?
So where are we going? Where are we heading?
Yeah, very, very interesting. So where is the labor force?
I think if I would have to estimate, then we go to the right here.
What is this? Right?
Healthcare, education, entertainment, hopefully government. Financial services will go this way, go to the left. Even though we have more financial services, but financial services will be highly automated. This is I would estimate that this will be maybe more than 50% will be gone in 20 years' time because it's not necessary.
Have you seen the list of the jobs which will be lost from next 10 to 20 years?
1 second. Yeah, I will show you the video.
Oh, okay.
I will show you the video.
What is it?
So the jobs that will disappear within the next 10, 15 years.
Okay.
It's in the video.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the next video. Actually, which jobs? That's the next one. Okay, so the two videos. Does technology destroy employment? This video says maybe.
A decade ago, robots still seemed pretty limited. Now, not so much.
Amazing.
And computers don't just win chess anymore, they can win Jeopardy!
Watson, what is the elegance of the hedgehog?
They can win Go!
There are about 200 possible moves for the average position in Go.
This is all happening really fast, and it's causing some to forecast a future where humans can't find work.
There will be fewer and fewer jobs that a robot cannot do better.
And what are the people going to do?
That's the $64,000 question.
I believe this is going to be one of the biggest challenges we face in the coming decades.
People who are not just unemployed, they are unemployable.
But if you ask economists, they tend to have a pretty different view from the futurists and Silicon Valley types.
Do you worry that new technologies could cause mass unemployment?
Yeah.
No.
Left side is an economist, the right side is a technologist.
I have devoted my career to worrying about the labor market, particularly worrying about the living standards of low and moderate income workers. So I worry a lot about things. I am not worried about this.
One of the reasons a lot of economists are skeptical about robots taking all the jobs is that we've heard that before.
There was a spike of automation anxiety in the late 20s, early 1930s, when machines were starting to take over jobs on farms and also in factories. This article from 1928 points out that there were guards who used to open and close the doors on subway trains, and people who took tickets before there were turnstiles. And I just love this quote. It says, "Building materials are mixed like dough in a machine and literally poured into place without the touch of a human hand." Automation anxiety surged again in the late 1950s, early 1960s. President Kennedy ranks automation first as job challenge. Computers and automation threaten to create vast unemployment and social unrest. This article from 1958 is about 17,000 longshoremen who were protesting automation on the piers. And if you don't know what longshoremen are, it's because there aren't many of them left. Technology destroyed a lot of those jobs.
Right.
And yet, we didn't run out of work.
This chart shows the percentage of prime-age
the
people
quote,
with jobs in
automation destroys jobs, but doesn't destroy work. It comes from that.
But this is before.
It's before, yes.
But
less.
So,
Ever since
but
women
now
joined the workforce
what
in
we
big
learned
numbers,
in the
it
past,
stayed
does it still
around
apply
80%
to the future? That's the
outside of
question.
recessions. During this period, technology displaced some 8 million farmers in the U.S., 7 million factory workers, over 1 million railroad workers, hundreds of thousands of telephone operators. We've lost gas pumpers, elevator attendants, travel agents. Tons of jobs have died, but work persists.
What you realize when you look through these old reports is that it's really easy for us to see the jobs being replaced by machines. It's a lot harder to visualize the jobs that come from what happens next.
New technology creates jobs in a few ways. There are the direct jobs for people who design and maintain the technology, and sometimes whole new industries built on the technology. But the part we tend to forget is the indirect effect of labor-saving inventions. When companies can do more with less, they can expand, maybe add new products or open new locations, and they can lower prices to compete. And that means consumers can buy more of their product. Or if we don't want more of it, we can use the savings to buy other things. Maybe we go to more sports events or out to dinner more often, maybe we get more haircuts or add more daycare for the kids. This process is how our standard of living has improved over time, and it's always required workers.
The key to economic logic here is automation does indeed displace workers who are doing work that got automated, but it doesn't actually affect the total number of jobs in the economy because of these offsetting effects.
Warnings about the end of work tend to focus on this part and not all of this, like a widely cited study from 2013.
Okay, point here is that, what we saw in the past is that actually automation generates efficiency. Efficiency grows the economy. Economy grows, demand for services, other services increases. That will lead to new jobs being created. So jobs are being replaced where people are being automated away. Then new demand will start to appear. Point is that so far we have been able to maintain a reasonable, good distribution of income. The gap between rich and poor was not that big, so the new services were attainable for most people. But what's happening right now, I think, is a little bit different, because the income distribution is getting wider and wider. So if the new generated income from efficiency is held by only a few individuals, they are not going to spend all that money. They're not going to all of a sudden create a whole new demand for fancy restaurants. You can only go to so many fancy restaurants a night, a year, and that's just it. So I think that you also need to take income distribution into this picture. So I think that's where economists are missing the bigger point.
Missing what?
The bigger point is that this doesn't. I mean, what we've seen in the past may not apply because income is not distributed equally. Unless we are able to redistribute income and let everybody win a little bit, we will not be able to generate these external effects from higher efficiency through automation.
I think another point maybe in the revolution of automation or Industry 2.0, the change of the society was relatively slow rather than the current change. So that even if the blue collar were driven out, but still there are chances for them to change their way to live. That means after the automation spread, they could find the new job,
right,
which was created at that moment,
right,
because there are considerable time for them to adapt themselves. But at this moment, the change is too drastic that if once somebody, or maybe the white collar, driven out, there's no chance for them to come back to the new.
As Uber drivers, as whatever there is, but it's going to be self-employed, it's going to be unstable, it's going to be risky. That means that people will be careful spending their money because they cannot see what the future brings them, which means that that there will be a high savings rate and less spending, which means that there's less demand for products. And what we're already seeing is that a lot of these automations is actually just not doing things, growing things, but replacing things with cheaper things. That really doesn't create much value. Like what Amazon is doing is brilliant, as it is very efficient, and it kills the competition. But it doesn't create any jobs, doesn't create any value. We do not all of a sudden start to buy more fresh goods because Amazon reinvented the way that we do distribution and that we do logistics. Basically, it just forces everybody to do things with smaller margins, and we see this race to the bottom, this including extra service, doing more while paying less. We see that happening everywhere. It doesn't really bring us any benefit. The shareholders of Amazon, sure. But what are they going to do? And who are they? Are they located in Japan? Are the jobs that being destructed in Japan for the supermarket workers? Are they are the people who benefit? Are they the shareholders of Amazon? Are they Japanese people? Are they going to pay their taxes inside Japan, or are they going to pay their taxes somewhere else? And if they're going to pay it somewhere else, how is the state going to help the people who actually lose their jobs, the cashiers, the people in the logistics centers? So that is a problem. I think that's what economists are overlooking.
The distribution of chances to get the new revenue, new income by the new opportunity spreading all over the world outside of
so that is actually that's another step. I mean, the first question is basically, how can these people survive economically? How do they get money? Like we talk about base income. The next question is base income enough to keep people happy? Because base income doesn't satisfy our higher needs. I mean, basically, base income would enable you to be able to sit on the sofa and play video games all day. But that doesn't satisfy us because we want to feel that we're contributing. So on a higher level, how can we make sure that the people who fall out of this system, that they somehow be put back into this system? That's the second question. But I don't think we can even answer the first question.
According to research conducted by Oxford University, nearly half of all current jobs in America,
47% of all our jobs,
47% of U.S. jobs in the next decade or two, according to researchers at Oxford, will be replaced by robots.
That study assessed the capabilities of automation technology. It didn't try to estimate the actual extent or pace of automation or the overall effect on employment. Now, all this doesn't mean that the new jobs will show up right away, or that they'll be located in the same place or pay the same wage as the ones that were lost. All it means is that the overall need for human work hasn't gone away. Technologists and futurists don't deny that's been true historically, but they question whether history is a good guide of what's to come.
Fundamentally, the argument is that this time is different. That's what I think. Imagine a form of electricity that could automate all the routine work. I mean, that's basically what we're talking about here. And so it's going to be across the board.
And it is easy to underestimate technology these days. In a 2004 book, 2 economists assessed the future of automation and concluded that tasks like driving in traffic would be enormously difficult to teach to a computer. That same year, a review of 50 years of research concluded that human-level speech recognition has proved to be an elusive goal. And now? Okay, Google. How many miles has Google's autonomous vehicle driven?
According to Recode, that's because the company announced its self-driving car project, which was created in 2009, has racked up over 2 million miles of driving experience.
This is the textbook chart of advancement in computer hardware. It's the number of transistors that engineers have squeezed onto a computer chip over time. Already pretty impressive, but notice that this isn't a typical scale. These numbers are increasing exponentially. On a typical linear scale, it would look more like this. It really is hard to imagine this not being massively disruptive. And as the authors of The Second Machine Age point out, processors aren't the only dimension of computing that has seen exponential improvement.
The idea of acceleration in your daily life, when you encounter that, maybe in a car for a few seconds, in an airplane for seconds again, the idea that something can accelerate for decades, literally just continuously, is just not something that we deal with. I mean, we think in straight lines.
But even though there's been all this innovation, it's not showing up in the data.
If we were seeing this big increase in automation, we would see productivity growing much more rapidly now than it usually does. And we are instead seeing the opposite.
Labor productivity is a measure of the goods and services we produce divided by the hours that we work. Over time, it goes up. We do more with less labor. We're more efficient. If we were starting to see a ton of labor-saving innovation, you'd expect this line to get steeper. But when you look at productivity growth, you can see that it's been slowing down since the early 2000s, and not just for the US. It's possible that new technologies are changing our lives without fundamentally changing the economy.
So will this all change? Will today's robots and AI cause mass unemployment? There's reason to be skeptical, but no one really knows.
But one thing we do know is that the wealth that technology creates, it isn't necessarily shared with workers. When you account for inflation, the income of most families has stayed pretty flat as the economy has grown.
One of the problems we've seen over the last 40 years is that we have seen all this rising productivity growth, but it actually hasn't been broadly shared. It's been captured by a thin slice of people at the top of the income distribution.
Even if unemployment stays low, automation might worsen economic inequality, which is already more extreme in the US than it is in most other advanced countries. But technology isn't destiny. Governments decide how a society weathers disruptions, and that worries people on both sides of the debate about the future of work.
You know, we've adopted policies that, instead of really trying to counteract the trend caused by technology and globalization and other things, we've, in many cases, exacerbated them, right? We put a wind at the back of them and made them even more extreme, and that's a big problem.
We'll probably always be fascinated by the prospect of robots taking our jobs, but if we focus on the things we can't really control, we risk neglecting the things we can.
So the jury is out on this. They say maybe. I'm a little less optimistic. I think that definitely, if we don't change the way that we not serious about the future, we have very little chance to counter this. I mean, we can already see that governments from the US, the governments from Japan and other countries, they're building up huge debts, which will make it very, very difficult for us to counter these effects in the future. We will need money, and we will need to be able to generate money for our citizens. If anything, I think we need stronger governments instead of less important governments. Now, in the United States, we see the opposite happening, and I think Japan is following kind of in its tracks, where we are looking for more deregulation. But the fact of the matter is that we are completely losing track of our citizens. The reason why we see these bigger income gaps is because we have weak governments, we have weak governance, and we cannot protect the best interests of society. We still believe in the models that were written down by Adam Smith more than 100 years ago, where we believe that the invisible hand will ultimately correct everything. I'm not that optimistic. I'm not that optimistic that the invisible hand will correct everything. So we definitely, I believe, are in need of some kind of authority that will be able to actually restore everything, and will not only look at things in the economic models that we create. So that's the thing. Actually, I believe that's the key word, because economists create models to explain what's happening in reality, but these models are just a description of the reality. The models they start to get a life of their own. So we start to believe the models. We start to believe that because this is the model, this is how it works. But the model is just an abstraction of reality. And the reality is changing, but it's not captured in our models anymore. So I'm really worried that we start to rely on our own models too much. So I think that if we don't take any action, if we don't seriously get control back to the government in order to make it possible to generate taxes, that we will not to redistribute income, to think about what we are going to do with our elderly workers, whether we need to give them a base income or whether we need to do more than that and give them dignity and make sure that they can remain their dignity, on creating exceptions where we are going to actually not let everything be ruled by the laws of economics. Because laws of economics dictate that we put people in places where they can be most productive. Maybe that's not, for society as a whole, that's not desirable. Maybe we need to accept the fact that there are people who can move and adjust themselves at different speeds, and we need to create space for those differences, and actually say, okay, well, it's better for us as a whole that we redistribute income, that we let certain groups adjust slower to these changes than others, and we make it possible for them to adjust at a slower pace, or not to adjust at all.
Money redistribution and how to give them dignity.
Right.
It means how we're going to give them training or education.
Right. Right. Training, education, or let them do what they were doing, even though it might not be 100% economically justified.
Greece did. Right? I was talking about Greece and Roman people did exactly what they did. And they tried to give them. And then at that time, they made a question, what is happiness? This is Socrates, right? Philosopher.
What was the answer?
Yeah,
I don't know.
What is happiness?
What was the answer? I don't know.
They have happiness is that they answered happiness. I prepared yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Aristotle.
Ah, okay.
Aristotle defined what is happiness. Okay.
Okay. Do you know what the definition was? Because I don't know it.
No, I forget it.
Oh. Okay.
I forget it.
Okay. Okay. So already question by that was raised by Sornoda-san. Okay, which jobs? Which jobs are we talking about? We already saw. Sorry, I use Grammarly, so every video I starts with Grammarly. No, this is different one.
In this video, we'll go through just some of the jobs that will radically change in the upcoming decade and the years that follow. If you're currently working in either of these industries, it might be a smart call to look for alternatives. Don't say we didn't warn you. If you're new here, welcome. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at ALUX. With that said, here are 15 jobs that will probably disappear or be automated in the next 10 to 20 years. Number 1. Drivers. Let me put it this way. If your job consists of driving any type of machinery, automobile or vehicle, you're gonna be out of a job soon. Taxi drivers, bus drivers, truck drivers, Uber drivers, and delivery drivers are all on the verge of complete automation. In the U.S. alone, there are 15.5 million trucks and 2 million tractor-trailers on the road, with the trucking industry employing 14 million people, out of which 10 million are drivers. These are the people who are going to be pushed out first, because a self-driving truck doesn't need to stop for rest, is attentive to the road 24/7, and we already have the technology. Believe it or not, this is already backed by the government in Germany, and they're betting hard on self-driving trucks. If you've watched our Tesla video, you know that the next generation of Tesla cars will be 100% autonomous. Elon Musk himself agrees that it will take us 1 to 2 years to get the tech right, and then 3 more to get the government to approve it. All major car manufacturers are headed towards electric and self-driving cars, and those who won't will be left behind. In the near future, riding in a car will be like getting in an elevator. You just press a button and it takes you to wherever you want to go. Now, what's going to happen to the estimated 20 million to have their livelihoods based on being active drivers? These people will need to reinvent themselves multiple times in a row. This might be easy if you're currently 20 to 30 years old, but what will a 50-plus-year-old taxi driver be able to readapt to? Not sure what these people will be able to do to switch from taxi driving to 3D modeling for virtual worlds, but we'll see. Number 2, farmers. Farming was huge when it came to employment numbers back in the day. This has changed dramatically, though. You might still see farming as human labor intensive in the underdeveloped parts of the world. But on a macro level, this has already been automated, with very few specially trained individuals that operate heavy machinery from the comforts of the office via wireless connections. Back in the day, you needed to physically measure your plot of land, needed human labor to weed it out, and another set of people to harvest and transport the end product to where it's needed. Now we measure things with drones or satellite imagery. The soil is already treated against weeds, or the seeds are weed-resistant to begin with. Harvesting and planting can be done in a small fraction of the time it used to, thanks to specialized hardware, and the trucks carrying out will be self-driving really soon. Bearing the title of farmer in the near future will be as highly ranked as banker or hedge fund manager, since there'll only be a handful of people having the oligopoly when it comes to what you eat. If this sounds ridiculous to you, that only a few people will be in charge of our food, you're already too late to the table. Today, only 10 companies control almost every large food and beverage brand in the world. Anything you eat probably comes from one of them. These companies: Nestle, PepsiCo, Coca-Cola, Unilever, Danone, General Mills, Kellogg's, Mars, Associated British Foods, and Mondelez. Welcome to the future, Alexers. Number 3, printers and publishers. The newspaper is dead. Traditional media is suffering as the internet is eating up everything. You no longer need to get your news from the papers. You get them via Twitter or live streams as they're happening. All traditional magazines are fighting for their lives not to survive one versus the other, but to survive as a whole. If you've watched our video on Forbes magazine, you know that despite having such a strong brand, they're on the verge of collapse, despite their massive push into digital media. Information is free, and there are very few publishers where the trust in the brand is enough to keep the motors going. A great example is the New York Times, one of the only publications who have successfully implemented a paywall for readers to consume their written content. Can you imagine if we would implement a paywall on alux.com, where you guys had to pay $1 to find out what the most expensive car in the world is? We'd be out of business quicker than you can say luxury. With the democratization of news sources, big brands are struggling to find their place in this online-first environment. Unless you're in your 50s or more, you're unlikely to get your news from TV networks. While Trump is watching Fox News, we're here backing Philip DeFranco's Patreon on YouTube. Number 4, cashiers. America alone has 8 million people working as cashiers and in-store salespeople. These people are going to be out of a job sooner than they think.
8 million.
I know you've seen the self-checkout stations, and they still have someone supervising them, and they're buggy now and then. But we're not far from a total takeover of the machines in this space. If you've been following what the biggest commerce giants are doing, it's easy to connect the dots. Amazon acquired Whole Foods for close to $14 billion. The same Amazon is running pilot tests with what they call Amazon Go, a corner store with 0 humans involved, where you just walk in, get what you need, and walk out, with everything you bought being automatically deducted from your credit card. Sensors are on the rise, and the tech needs to only be a little better than the human counterpart for the switch to be made. Also, the AI cashiers can go 24/7 without bringing the drama of their personal lives into the workplace. Number 5. Travel agents. When's the last time you went to a travel agency to book a flight? The likes of Skyscanner took over the flight ticket industry, Booking.com over the hotel booking industry, and Airbnb is disrupting the hotel business as a whole. There's no need for a third person to book the flight or hotel room for us. We can do it ourselves, or better yet, you can tell Siri to book it for you. Number 6. Manufacturing workers. When the Industrial Revolution hit, all the people working the fields moved to work in factories, handcrafting the machines that would make our lives easier. In the process, and with the advancement in technology, these same people were put in charge of building machines that build other machines that would eliminate the need for humans. A fun thing to do is to compare the way cars were built less than 100 years ago in the factories of Volkswagen and how they're built today. Back then, multiple humans were working in tandem to put together the end product, while today you're watching simple software at work. We heard this great quote a while back that stuck with us, and it goes like this. The factory of the future will only have one human and one dog. The human will be there to feed the dog, and the dog will be there to keep the human from touching the machines. Number 7. Dispatchers. I know you're probably thinking of the days when someone had to manually connect you to a different line in order to talk to someone, but an astonishingly high number of people are still working as dispatchers today. The role of the dispatcher is to coordinate the field operators, so things run smoothly for everybody. It doesn't matter if you're a firefighter dispatcher.
It's actually basically a coordination center to direct an ambulance from A to B, to direct a fire truck from A to B, to direct like a chronicle
surveillance center.
Yeah, right. Surveillance center. It's the traffic control center of an airport, things like that.
Okay.
With planes, the police, or ambulances, we already have technology that is massively outperforming you at your job, and we're now figuring out just the final touches on what is the best way to deploy that technology. Remember only 5 years ago when you had to call someone and ask for a cab? How do you ask for an Uber or a Lyft today? One algorithm making their way into your particular niche of dispatching, and your job is over.
Right.
Number 8. Waiting tables and bartending. Okay, not all of them will be gone, but the bulk surely have one foot out the door already. Of course, there's the need for social interaction, but that's not always the case. Sometimes you just want to sit down, have the food arrive at your table as soon as possible, enjoy a particular mix of alcoholic beverages, and then leave, all of which can be successfully replaced by a carefully documented algorithm and an iPad. More and more restaurants are jumping in on this trend all around the world. We've even mentioned some of them in our previous video about cool restaurants around the world that you should try out, and we made this video a year ago. Since then, the likes of Pizza have taken over, and they're here to stay. Number 9. Bank tellers. I'm sad to say this, as the lady at our bank has always been so nice to me, but we're not going to the bank for social interaction. To be honest, we don't go to the bank anymore, or very rarely when a visit is really needed. Otherwise, we check out our balance on our smartphones. Even the people on our payroll get their money delivered to their accounts automatically, without the need for us to manually and physically fill in a form with their details. If you want to grab cash, you go to an ATM. You can open a bank account to most banks in the world online, and only if you're looking for specialized services, you might need to meet in person. And even then, you might get the job done with a video call. Number 10. Military pilots and soldiers. The military is the most sensible industry to innovation. It is the first one to embrace it and deploy it. If back in the day wars were decided based on who had the largest number of troops, today it's a technology play. You no longer see people holding bayonets and riding horses into battle, because that would be inefficient. Drones can hit a target more accurately than any human could without endangering the life of the pilot, who's sitting comfortably in a chair on the other side of the world. There is still a need for human soldiers, but not as we know them. These are the special ops, the best of the best who are deployed only when there's no other technology at play. Number 11. Fast food workers. Remember when people were asking for $15 an hour to work at McDonald's? That's when automation kicks in. All the people protesting the low wages for unskilled jobs will be the first ones to be hit if such an increase in pay does happen. Fast food jobs are probably the easiest to automate out of the list, and to be honest, it would have happened anyway, but companies didn't do it right away because they didn't have any incentive to mess with something that's working fine right now. But now with all the protests, the government might actually give in, and that's when the wave of automation takes over. We have an incredible article on our website that takes a look at exactly what's going to happen with the rise in minimum wage, which we strongly recommend you check out in the top right corner and in the description. Number 12. Telemarketer. Have you noticed that there are already fewer and fewer telemarketers? Their entire industry has been taken over by targeted ads all around the internet and on all of your devices, specially constructed based on the information the tech giants
They
have
are the outbound call center people who are trying to sell stuff.
Outbound call center people. Okay.
gathered from your use on their platforms. Facebook is not a charity. It uses all the data from the things you like, click on, share, or engage with to create a custom profile for every single one of its users, batch them, and sell them to other companies. We ourselves use that type of data to get our videos in front of people that we believe will find them valuable. The irony is, even before this video you're watching right now, there was probably an ad promoting something you more or less are interested in. Ads are getting smarter as they learn more and more from you, and that's why telemarketers are obsolete. Number 13.
Grammarly, that's what I'm
accountants and tax preparers. If it's one thing we've learned so far from this list, it's that boring and repetitive jobs will be taken over by algorithms. What's the role of an accountant? To go through your raw data and organize it. That's like the favorite thing to do for algorithms. That's where they shine, baby. The average accountant in the U.S. earns around $60,000 per year, and there are 1.3 million registered accountants and auditors. Even if it would cost $15 billion to create a highly sophisticated AI that would get the job done perfectly, that piece of software would pay for itself in under 2 years. That's why AI engineers are going after accountants, lawyers, and medical professionals. Number 14. Stock traders. Long are the days of Jordan Belfort and Gordon Gekko. A study done by Bloomberg analysts in late 2015 discovered that only 10% of the stocks traded on a daily basis worldwide are traded by actual humans and investors. The rest are bots. Wherever there's money, someone will try to automate it and get an edge against their competitors. The stock market is one of those places, and the people behind the biggest funds in the world have deep enough pockets to capitalize on it. Want to be freaked out? Okay, let's say you want to buy a particular stock. You go to your favorite trading platform or secured portfolio management dashboard, you fill in the info with how much you want to buy at said trading price and hit buy. In the time it takes for the signal to reach the servers and approve the order, the bots have already realized you're going to purchase that stock. They buy it for themselves, trade it between themselves, and then sell it to you at a noticeably bigger price. Welcome to the world of micro-trading, where bots always win. You're not going to beat the market. Number 15. Construction workers. Back here on Earth, where people actually use their hands and backs to make things happen, the story looks a lot like what we've been saying through this video. Although the numbers are not clear, there are at least 200 million people working in construction around the world, and with developing countries wanting to expand, you'd expect the number to be on the rise. Well, it isn't, and that's because technology is getting more and more efficient and affordable. Developers now need more machines and a slightly more specialized workforce to use said machines to build. As technology progresses, we can see that construction workers will follow the same path as those who used to work in the farming industry in the past. Unless you're the owner of the enterprise or one of those specialized employees who are further down the line of automation, the future doesn't seem like a welcoming place for you. That's why we wanted to make this video for you. We know most of you are young, but making a bet on these industries in the traditional sense might not be the big payoff you're expecting. Most of you have family that are likely to be impacted by these changes, so make sure you bring up automation next time you're hanging out with your loved ones. As always, our videos are not prophecies, but conversations we want to start with you guys.
So it's everywhere.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about the ranking 10 soldiers and the pilots.
Soldiers, yeah.
Soldiers.
Yeah.
What kind of job will going to remain instead of disappear?
I think the people who are capable to leverage those automation will be everywhere. I think the creative jobs. The composers, basically the designers, designers.
Designers?
Yeah, not the producers, but the composers.
Do we need it?
Yes, of course we need it. We need people who design the systems. That's the creative work. More and more will be higher level creative work. What you are always saying about liberal arts. We do not only need it for elderly people to find joy.
What kind of creative work in your image?
Designer of the systems.
What kind of design?
So I have later on in this presentation, I have an example. Like take for example the tester, the software tester. The software tester now. What does a software tester do? They go.
What is software tester?
Tester. Software testing. It's at the bottom of the software chain, right? It's not a very highly paid job. It's very manual. Basically, software testers they get a piece of software and they try to break it. That's what they try to do.
This case can be automated.
It can be automated, but which software tester will survive? It will be the software tester who will make the models to effectively test the software that they get, who will be able to model and understand the software that has been created and create effective tests and simulations that will enable the automated systems to work properly. So those are the people who will be able to survive, and all the other manual software testers, they will go out of a job.
Any kind of creative work.
Creative work, yeah.
Talking about the production.
This is what still skeptical creative work. Very small portion, maybe yes, but very small portion. Majority creative work we don't need.
We don't need. I think we need a lot of it.
Every creation of a product starts from the design,
right?
Including a primitive design. The car, airplane, even the industry system also starting from design. Not only the design of the shape, but also the design of the requirements. So now one of the movement already happens under the Industry 4.0. One of the idea is systems engineering or digital twins or digital thread. Those all activities are related each other. So the core idea behind that is if the designer type in the requirement, product out, that's all, in a very short moment. So one of the key
that's how they design Toyotas.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
One of the key technology is the additive manufacturing, or in other words, the 3D printing. That technology is make it real. Such kind of
prototyping.
Yeah. Not only the prototyping, but also the mass production also.
Right. Well, we're getting there, but at the moment, I think the people who are able to actually designers, it will enable us to design and basically whatever peoples who are at the beginning of a creative process, after that running, implementing it. Finding the answer to the question that you're asking. We need people who ask questions, people who have ideas, and we can leave most of the work after that to computers, but everything still starts with the human mind. Now, theoretically, what you could say, you could argue, like, okay, the next step, like in the example that I gave you for the software testing. Actually, based on the model, artificial intelligence should be capable of actually designing automated tests. It is technically possible, but that is 3 steps ahead.
Yeah, but it is not totally it's sci-fi stuff.
Right.
It's not possible future.
Right.
Yeah. And talking about Airbus, and the same with the Boeing. They are now thinking about the very aggressive production idea using additive manufacturing. So it is an extension of yes, digital twins, but they are trying to print the body of the airplanes. Yes, and but one amazing thing about this idea is. Right now, the production of the airplane were made from assembling the parts of the bodies, like these cylinders and the nose part and the wings, and And also, one of the difficulty of such kind of a production, the regulation or limitation came from such kind of productions. Came from that. I can say one of the difficulties is the strengths of the structures of the bodies. So there are huge limitations for the design because of that kind of the production method.
Right.
But if we can print the bodies from the, not making an assembly, but just the whole body.
Right.
Then it is possible to make a structure design in terms of the strengths. We can handle with very condensed portion and also the lighter portion at the same time. So the magnitude of the detailedness is totally different between the two portions. At this moment, it is impossible. But if we can use 3D printing, then we can design printout. That's all. From a micro.
Right, you make the design once, and then you just let the printers run.
Yeah. So that that kind of So the bottom line is well, and going back to the main track, the number 10, the soldiers.
Soldiers, yeah.
I think 50% yes and 50% no, because if we think about the mission of the soldier is fight in front end. Right. Those sort of soldier are not necessary anymore. The drone can replace them.
A large part of them.
Large part of them. Yeah. But at the same time, the current mission of the soldiers are diversified. So especially thinking about the situation of like a peacekeeping operation of UN. So in such a case, it is said that the corporate strategic corporal is required. That means, or in other words, they need to fight in a 3 block of war.
But effectively, like if you look at it, then satellite technology in combination with AI, we are very much capable of observing troop movements and observing what is actually happening on the ground, which will enable you to control a situation employing much fewer people.
It is possible to decrease the number of the soldiers.
Serious.
That's true. Yeah. So that even for the military stuff, creative work remains.
Right. Right. So what actually becomes the main condition, the main duty of a soldier probably will be the communication, to keep the communication going, to try to create bridges between parties and actually give instructions and try to influence both sides to resolve a conflict.
No. Current most difficulty for the soldiers, automated soldiers, is they can very difficult to distinguish this is enemy or civilian. This is the most concern. American military very much difficult to figure out. Currently, they have a lot of drone and automated vehicles and actually activated already. But they have most difficulty is this is civilian or enemy. Very difficult to distinguish.
That is also true. Yes.
Well, I mean,
but actually,
of course, they know it. Like what's happening in Israel with the Palestinians, where Hamas is actually mingling with regular civilians.
But actual soldiers, they try to make judgment, but robots kill them all.
Thinking about the situation in ISIS,
most difficult.
One of the most difficult thing for the U.S. soldier was to distinguish who is ISIS soldier and who is not, who was not.
So just only aspect of morale, okay? But actually the soldiers themselves, they might be kill them all, but they always discuss about this is morality, right? It's the most difficult. And it's very difficult to distinguish which is creative or not. Okay.
Right. So as we can see from this video, there's a lot of things, and I think one common denominator is that everything that you drive or can be driven, machinery, cars, what moves things from A to B, will all be self-driving and all.
I tell you, I think we don't need any kind of job anymore. Almost. We don't need almost. What do you need? Like you said, more designer. How many percent of design skills?
So of course, I mean, but if we're looking at what kind of jobs? Teachers, designers, creative people, people who can make a bridge between creative process and technology. Those people are the ones that will remain.
Okay, I'll tell you. Like for example, one example: Confucius teachers. Okay, this is automated. I go to my teacher. What kind of action I had better take?
Right. But basically, it's already existing, right? Because what we see nowadays is, for example, online learning, right? You record it once, you put it on YouTube, and it will be available
already
forever.
memorized 1 million books already.
Right.
You know? What kind of action I had better take? She's going to answer for me.
Right.
You should do this. You should not do this. Right. But only a human being can do is robot cannot make judgment because human being is usually based on not only based on rational. Okay. Many cases instinction. So this kind of instinction movement nobody cannot recognize.
Right. So
this is human being.
That's the reason why people still wait in line at the cash register at the moment, because they don't need to. Theoretically speaking, it would be more efficient for them to actually just scan the things themselves and walk out. But instinctively, they feel more.
Okay, one good example.
Part of society.
A good example for my wife. Okay, I expect she's going to say yes, but usually should say yes, but she said no. But this is instinction.
Right.
Okay, not rational based on. But so this kind of sort of things is robotics cannot make judgment. Okay. We don't know which direction are they going to.
Right.
This is human being.
Yeah, but they actually become very good. I will show you a video later, but actually they have become so good, it's scary.
Really?
Yeah.
This is very good, impressive. Very good, impressive. I believe that. Okay, we don't remain any kind of job anymore.
Right.
Everything automated. So what? What are you going to do next 20 years?
So what is the government doing? This is a discussion between Yoshi Ito, what's his name? He's a professor in the US, Japanese, yeah.
MIT,
yeah.
Ito, Joichiro
Ito, and Barack Obama.
Oh, really?
Yes.
The chairman of MIT Media Lab, right?
Right.
How we think about the interface between humans and machines, I think, is something that I know Joyce thought a lot about. This is where the idea of extended intelligence.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
How we think about the interface between humans and machines, I think, is something that I know Joyce thought a lot about. This is where the idea of extended intelligence makes a lot of sense. It also is probably the better way of thinking about it for our economy and jobs, because people worry that, well, are we going to get into a situation where a machine's just doing everything? And one of the promising aspects of AI is it turns out that, for example, even in playing chess, a computer with a human oftentimes can do better than just the computer. Well, think about that application, broadly to a lot of disciplines.
So complementary instead
what
of
we want to be able to do is develop systems that are open enough, transparent enough that human judgment, human imagination, creativity are still intruding, are still active, but a lot of the routine stuff that's happening day to day. And in some ways, that's just analogous to, how we use calculators, right? It's an extension of our intelligence, but it's a simple enough one that it doesn't feel as threatening as it does, partly because we understand exactly what's going on. And with a lot of these systems, you start losing track of what are they doing. And I know that's a problem you've been thinking about a lot. For us to be successful in these areas, we really have to think through the economic implications, because most people aren't spending a lot of time right now worrying about singularity. They are worrying about, wow, is my job going to be replaced by a machine? And I tend to be on the optimistic side that historically we've absorbed new technologies, and people find that new jobs are created and they migrate, and our standards of living generally go up. I do think that we may be in a slightly different period now, simply because of the pervasive applicability of AI and other technologies, where high skill folks do very well in these systems. They can leverage their talents, they can interface with machines to extend their reach, their sales, their products, their services. Low-wage, low-skill individuals become more and more redundant, and their jobs may not be replaced, but wages are suppressed. And if we are going to successfully manage this transition, we are going to have a societal conversation about how do we manage that? How are we training and ensuring the economy is inclusive? If in fact we're producing more than ever, but more and more of it's going to a small group at the top, how do we make sure that folks have a living income? What does it mean in terms of us supporting things like the arts or culture, or making sure our veterans are getting cared for? So the social compact has to accommodate these new technologies, and our economic models have to accommodate them. The good news is that's not going to happen overnight. Let's say that's a 20, 30-year process. If we're making good decisions now, then we can build the runways so that by the time AI is fully incorporated into our economic life, people welcome it as opposed to reject it. But we can't assume that. And if we continue on current trends, you're going to continue to see these populist movements, both on the left and the right, that believe that technology, globalization, AI, the guys who are off on their own, staring at a computer screen trying to figure this stuff out, that all of that is threatening to the day-to-day lives of ordinary people and the values that they cherish and notions of community. And we have to guard against that. That starts with making sure the economic implications are worked out.
It's actually, though, non-intuitive which jobs get displaced, because I would bet that if you had a computer that understood the medical system and was very good at diagnostics, the resident nurse or the pharmacist
is the least likely
to be, and maybe the amount of school they have to go to is just a community college instead of medical school. And my rule of thumb is if the person looks like they're doing work that a robot or an AI could do, they're going to be more likely to be displaced. And there's actually a very high level jobs, maybe some categories of lawyers or auditors that might disappear, whereas a lot of the service businesses, the arts, I think that things that involve things that computers just aren't well suited for. And I think to President Obama's point, I think that we have some time, and I don't know what you think about universal basic income, but but as we start to see people getting displaced, there's also this idea of work provides the structure for people, it provides the purpose. And so can we look at other models like academia or the arts where people have purpose, or people who take care of kids at home, and can we somehow, because we don't calculate moms into GDP, it's crazy, right? So I think one of the problems is there's this general notion sort of on Wall Street that how can you be so smart and not have any money, right? And now going into academia, I realize there are a lot of smart people with no money. And so I think that also this ties into the values of society, because as we start to see other work that may actually be viable work, it just isn't viewed as work. Right?
Well, you're exactly right. And that's what I mean by redesigning the social compact. Now, whether a universal income is the right model, is that going to be accepted by a broad base of people? You know, that's a debate that we'll be having over the next 10 years, next 20 years. And you're also right that the jobs that are going to be displaced by AI are not just low-skilled service jobs. They might be high-skilled jobs, but ones that are repeatable and computers can do. What is indisputable, though, is that as AI gets further incorporated and the society potentially gets wealthier, that the link between production and distribution, how much you work and how much you make, gets further and further attenuated because the computers are doing a lot of the work. And as a consequence, we then have to make some tougher decisions. We already have this problem. It's not as hypercharged as it's going to be. We underpay teachers, despite the fact that that's a really hard job that's really hard for a computer to do well, to replace a really good teacher. But we don't value teachers because it used to be primarily women's work, or because there are a whole host of reasons why we don't. For us to re-examine what we value, what we collectively are willing to pay for, whether it's teachers, nurses, caregivers, moms, dads who stay at home, artists, all the things that are incredibly valuable to us, but right now don't rank high on the totem pole. That's a conversation that we need to begin to have. And Joy's identified, I think, the ways in which this could be solved. But it's going to require, I think, a new way of thinking, and that's not going to happen right away.
Oh my God, I miss this president so much.
Last question, why he's not something what he said? Why he said?
What he's saying is that basically what we need to do is need to accept the fact that society is going to change, and the way that the society works, the way that the things that we value right now, the way that we are making our money and who's making money and based on what.
More money from us.
Exactly. So we really need to think about not only about basic income, but also, okay, how are we going to deal? How are we going to give people dignity? Societal changes.
Distribution consider for the
exactly.
job by job.
Job by job, about the arts, about everything else. We really need to have a discussion. How are we going to actually redistribute all the benefits, that potential benefits that we have from technology, AI in this case? That was
Trump never says that.
Never.
You like it.
Never say that. He doesn't want to think about it. He just wants to keep the Mexicans out of his country. The Mexicans are not a threat. This is a threat for the American workers. This is if we don't really think about how to deal with displaced workers, this is a much bigger threat than any Mexican that currently lives in the United States. Yeah. But Trump, I think he knows it, he realizes it, but he's completely opportunistic. Well, I really hate the guy, but I think this guy is honest in his opinion and thought this through very well and carefully. This kind of leader is what the United States needs, not Donald Trump.
Okay.
So
Next.
we need to think about this on a much deeper level. So actually, they said Obama and Ito kind of agreed on the runway that they had, right? So we have like 10, 20, 30 years to actually prepare society for this to be like all around us.
Yeah, they said that we don't need the lawyer.
But actually, do we? Question mark.
The progress with the assistant. As I said earlier, our vision for our assistant is to help you get things done. It turns out a big part of getting things done is making a phone call. You may want to get an oil change schedule, maybe call a plumber in the middle of the week, or even schedule a haircut appointment. You know, we are working hard to help users through those moments. We want to connect users to businesses in a good way. Businesses actually rely a lot on this, but even in the US, 60% of small businesses don't have an online booking system set up. We think AI can help with this problem. So let's go back to this example. Let's say you want to ask Google to make you a haircut appointment on Tuesday between 10 and noon. What happens is the Google Assistant makes the call seamlessly in the background for you. So what you're going to hear is the Google Assistant actually calling a real salon to schedule the appointment for you. Let's listen.
Yeah, this phone, my Google.
So how can I help you? Hi, I'm calling to book a woman's haircut for a client. I'm looking for something on May 3rd. Sure, give me 1 second. Sure, what time are you looking for around? At 12 p.m. We do not have a 12 p.m. available. The closest we have to that is a 1:15. Do you have anything between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m.? Depending on what service she would like. What service is she looking for? Just a woman's haircut for now? Okay, we have at 10 o'clock. 10 a.m. is fine. Okay, what's her first name? The first name is Lisa. Okay, perfect. So I will see Lisa at 10 o'clock on May 3rd. Okay, great. Thanks. Great. Have a great day. Bye.
That was a real call you just heard. The amazing thing is the assistant can actually understand the nuances of conversation. We've been working on this technology for many years. It's called Google Duplex. It brings together all our investments over the years in natural language understanding, deep learning, text-to-speech. By the way, when we are done, the assistant can give you a confirmation notification saying your appointment has been taken care of. Let me give you another example. Let's say you want to call a restaurant, but maybe it's a small restaurant which is not easily available to book online. The call actually goes a bit differently than expected. So take a listen.
See how may I hear you?
Hi, I'd like to reserve a table for Wednesday the 7th.
For 7 people?
It's for 4 people.
4 people? When?
Next Wednesday at 6 p.m.
Oh, actually we reserve for like upper like 5 people. For 4 people you can come.
How long is the wait usually to be seated?
When, tomorrow or weekday or?
For next Wednesday, the 7th.
Oh no, it's not too busy. You can come for 4 people, okay?
Oh, I gotcha. Thanks.
Bye bye.
Again, that was a real call. We have many of these examples where the calls quite don't go as expected, but the assistant understands the context, the nuance. It knew to ask for wait times in this case and handle the interaction gracefully. Look, the progress with us.
So I wonder whether we really have a 20, 30 years runway. This is becoming available right now. Google is now is very far by bringing this to us for free.
My Google many times this phone from there over there. Yeah. Something they're going to say something.
Yeah, so that you're not so lonely.
Is this a current available Google Assistant
Yes.
service through the Google speaker?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
So this kind of system, I mean, and not only this, like augmented reality, integrated with Google Maps, positioning, like it's all there. It's all there, and Google is ready to roll it out. And if Google is rolling it out, that means it becomes available for free to us. That means that it's going to be everywhere. So this is not that far away. This is not that far away. Of course, maybe it will not be available in Japanese in the beginning, maybe only in English, but this is a matter of very short time, I think. Very short time. Yeah, I was completely blown away by this video. I could not imagine that we were already this far.
So this is all discussion today. Still
More.
Oh, a lot.
No. Actually, I'm almost done because next we will go to energy, and I don't want to start about energy. So, according to many studies, at least 30 to 40% of traditional work is expected to be displaced. People in high demand, architecting creative solutions in all domains: entrepreneurship, arts, governance, teaching, demand for deep technical skills, creativity, and learnability. And we also see more temporary contract work.
Yeah, I'm very skeptical for those work. This also, majority of those work will disappear. We don't need to do that.
Like contract work?
Yeah.
I'm not so sure about that.
Most important is how to build in trust with mutual understanding. This is how to build in trust is still remaining.
Right, like the business work,
Japanese people pushing too much for foreigners, but this is a problem. But the overseas people, they do not expect so much pushing strongly toward them. So how to handle it for equal, negotiation.
Right.
But Japanese people cannot do that. This is a problem.
But even there, I see that there is a very big potential for automation, because once, like this working for Mitsubishi, once you have built up a certain level of trust, after that everything can be automated with automated purchase orders and fulfillment, delivery. Even that, I see that there is a big potential for reduction in employment, even with salespeople.
So it's still remaining negotiation, especially for Japanese people.
High level negotiation. Yeah.
No, every kind of start new job, new business. So who are you? This kind of try to make an establishment.
Right, but that's very high level. But after that, basically once you said.
Very difficult for us to negotiate. They don't want to do that.
Right.
Especially Chinese people hate us to doing that. The Japanese people not reliable, they believe, right? So our kind of big issue is how to build trust relationship. It's very difficult. And also Japanese entrepreneur people they have a very conservative, reluctant to make close relationship with overseas people for investment. Like, are they going to do this? No, they cannot. So this is, even if this kind of AI robotics is going ahead technology, but Japanese people very difficult to get involved in this society, right? Like a G7, G20, the same. We are not actually involving. This is a problem. Even if the technology ahead, but sort of, like as a member or other, close relationship, how they going to build it? Right? This is very difficult. Right?
We were talking about it downstairs.
And you had better ask Takashi. He's the last 5 minutes. Takashi.
Where would you like to ask Takashi?
He's out?
No.
No?
Oh, wait. Oh, we're in front of him. How can I get Takahashi-san to the front?
Oh, Takahashi. Oh, here you go. Are you still joining with us?
Sure.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, say something.
Say something. What's the question?
Yeah, probably no place where we're gonna have to stay here. So I'll be back and is waiting for Dora to come from the school.
Takashi, sorry, I think we have a little problem. Maybe it is
What are you
resonance.
doing here?
No, actually, I think that I hear it's resonating. It's probably because
Resonating? Okay, resonating. Takahashi, say something.
Yeah, it's difficult to say something.
Okay.
I'm feeling bad.
Okay. I think my opinion is that like Japanese people very difficult to get trust from overseas people, even if what kind of technology going ahead and robotics, AI, but we can not build up with European people. We cannot build up with Vietnamese people because they don't trust us. This is a problem. So we need to do a lot of things next 5 or 10 years.
What do you need to do? What is necessary for Japanese people to change to build trust?
We need to fill in cultural gap. It's like European people, why they don't like us? Why they don't trust us? We need to analyze the reason why. Because the Japanese people, they don't have their common sense, right? Japanese people, they only sticking to the local, concern instead of global attitude. Sort of like.
So what is necessary is a global attitude, then.
Yeah. So not all of Japanese people. I think some people they want to involve in European people, or they need to study. Like what the true answer, what the discussion. Like for example, Iranian deal, one good example. How do you think about that? But many people cannot answer. Just only answer within the Nikkei newspaper level. So German people never accept that, right? Oh, this is all. They just hold it. Then they just discuss with the other people instead of with Japan.
But even if we have a highly globalized workforce outside of Japan being able to build bridges with foreigners, then it's still a matter of, okay, the next step. Because I think that if we do not enforce those people to actually drive their home organizations, we will still encounter distrust from the foreign partners, because it is expected that you build relations, and that based on relations, it's going to be a give and take. But the problem with the negotiation with the Japanese for most Western people is that once they are trying to engage in this give and take game, the person at the other side of the table is not in the position to give or take anything. He needs to go back to head office. Therefore, who am I talking to is the general perception of a Western negotiator.
Oh, this is my experience for more than 30 years. And headquarter negotiation, and you're going to negotiate with European people. Japanese people do both. So this is more heavy burden they have. But they should do that. Like Takahashi do double work, but this is no way. Otherwise, if you're going to watching headquarters, but his business cannot success. But if he gets success with Vietnamese people, if he's watching Vietnamese people to building relationship, but only doing that, but he's going to lose headquarters trust relationship.
Right.
So he should do both. This is no way. That's the reason why he should work double work. This is Japanese people typically they should do that. Many people they don't do that. One of those, right? So this is not good enough.
Yeah.
So they should do both. So this is the only way. But additionally, not only that selling his job, but also he should get more broader cultural perspective. Broader cultural perspective means liberal arts. This is very big history of European people they have. Like you said, okay, well, after retirement, okay, we don't do job because they have very big background of Christianity. They have big background of historical heritage. So Japanese people, we don't know that. But Japanese people are working very hard, and even if they're getting older, they don't try to do work. But they should understand European people mindset. Otherwise, we cannot go get along with those people. So which side are you thinking about? Oh, you yourself, okay, you're selfish? No, you need to communicate with those people, but you should study for those people's mindset. Otherwise, European people respect us. This is the current situation. If you go into Italy and France and Germany, they don't want to talk with us. Okay, even if global, meeting on discussion session, they don't like us to make a speech. They don't like us to have opinion.
Is that your experience, Sonra-san? Because you recently you're engaging with the foreign counterparts frequently.
Yeah. The society I'm not involved in is slightly different from the situation which Uno-san told right now, because the international standardization communities I can say of course we have a meeting during daytime, but we say the main meeting start after that meeting from 6 o'clock p.m. So that means always we are trying to communicate with them tightly, exchanging our virtues more than technical issues. So that at least in the standardization community, I think still, even for Japanese experts, communicate with the foreign experts. So that is a slightly different situation comparing with the normal, ordinary negotiation between company and company. Yeah.
Nowadays I'm writing book at the last person, Aristotle. Okay, Aristotle said, if you try to negotiate with counterpart, this is not content, not issue to be discussed. Communication, he said. Communication is very important. So European people, but the best way to communicate with those people, what he said after 5.
Of course, but communication, it's one thing, but you also need to be able to follow through on what you communicate. And that's the way that people like Takahashi-san need to work, is kind of like you are already negotiating with yourself, even before you negotiate with your counterpart, because you know that whatever you say or promise or do or give into, that will be a battle to actually achieve at home. So you're already negotiating with yourself. That's an impossible mission. It's an impossible mission. So I really think that if Japan wants to globalize, it's even more important to actually globalize headquarters and to let headquarters give autonomy to the negotiator to actually make decisions on behalf of them.
Okay, I get involved in the international kind of activity when I was 30 years ago. I chaired many times. This case is what is the most things I did is not the content to get acceptance from counter people. This is I going to get trust from those people.
Right.
You blame me? Okay, why don't you agree with me? This is the final, my conclusion.
Right, but your position is not really the same as, for example, Takahashi's position, because you were CEO.
No, that's okay, not the same. Okay, he just get acquaintance with his counterpart or government officials. They completely trust him, but they're going to say yes. Okay, not content. Okay, Takahashi going to speak out his opinion. They believe what he said. This is a very basic negotiation with European people.
But what can Takahashi-san say if he doesn't know whether or not he can get approval from his company? If what the other side is asking is
just I told you, the company side, just he's inside company side negotiation different.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you're going to doing business with his customer or his counterpart, this is different. If as soon as you're going to build a trust relationship, they're going to accept you. Especially he's going to spend a lot of time after 5. Okay, then our counterpart believe you, and he'll go and say yes. Okay. And some cases they're going to ask you some negotiation.
So exactly, because if I, for example, if I would head the German delegation, and I would, for me, it would be very important that something that I would basically get 20% more of what you are willing, that your head office is willing to give.
Oh, as soon as I build a relationship, you're going to tell me 20% more because I trust you. Of course, I say yes.
You say yes, but you don't know whether your head office will approve that.
This is later. We need to discuss with headquarters.
Yeah.
This is actually currently I'm doing.
But you lose all your trust if the head office says no.
No, this is okay. China counterpart, they're going to, I have strong relationship. Client, I need this one. He's going to ask me what 20% discount something else. I immediately I'm going to tell him yes, of course.
Okay, but what about your relationship if you turn around, go to Japan, and Japan says, forget it?
No, whatever I try to make them something.
Yeah, but I mean, you will not. You don't know whether you have that degrees of freedom because basically you're given zero way to maneuver. So
yeah, this is you should make an effort to persuade him.
Of course, okay, but you're taking a gamble by saying, okay, yeah, of course, 20%, but you don't know whether it's 20%. So if I would be the negotiator and I would not be so sure, I would say, well, no, sorry, but I cannot promise that, because if you would have to come back, yeah, sorry, I said 20%, but actually I can only give you 5%, then you say, yeah, what's that? We had a promise, didn't you? You made a promise.
This case, he didn't establish trust relationship yet. In this case, you can say yes.
No, in this case, you destroy the trust relationship, maybe.
If you are building a trust relationship, they're going to ask you 20% should yes.
Yeah, okay, but what if you cannot deliver on that?
No, they're going to ask you because they understand you, who you are.
No. I'm saying that if your head office does not allow you to give the 20%, they say, no, we don't want to do that.
Oh, head office, they say no?
Yeah.
Oh, this case is a very big gamble. But
exactly.
They quit from?
Exactly. So basically, you lose your trust.
Yeah, this is a good
You lose
point.
your trust. Yeah. So I think that the way to globalize is to have these people, global mindset, actually give them the power to negotiate and give them some degrees of freedom to actually maneuver so that they can build up the trust.
Sun Tzu at the war said, your boss said misjudgment for you, and 3 times they did misjudgment, you can leave.
Yeah.
Or still you're going to stay within the company, and they try to, you can cancel to your customer. You can get new job.
So
it's under beach, so you can leave.
So, Takashi-san.
Always I'm telling him.
In conclusion.
Always I'm telling him. This is Sun Tzu at the war. Right? Okay, so today is...
Okay.
By the way, are you going to do the same IT innovation next week?
No. Yes, IT innovation, but the last topic, and that's energy.
Still, are you doing energy?
Yep.
I'm getting bored. Energy work for what?
Energy. Well, basically, part of the transformation is okay. What will the energy market will look like? No, not oil. We're looking at Japan.
Oh, okay.
So how is Japan going through the transformation? How far are we? 1 more week.
Okay.
That's it. And then it's half energy, and the last half is discussion. I've put up a few things. Okay, what's going to happen in Japan, and that's the base for discussion. That's the end of it. Yeah.
So are you preparing for the Dutch already?
Not yet.
Okay, that's all. Thank you for today.
All right. Thank you very much, Takashi-san. Thank you very much.